Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cooking with Tovia. I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the best homemade buttermilk biscuits from scratch. You'll find all the ingredients you need in the description box as well as throughout the video. I have here 2 cups of all-purpose flour. To this all-purpose flour, I'm going to add a tablespoon of baking powder, a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. So I'm just gonna mix those dry ingredients together. I have 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter that I cut into small cubes, and I had this in the freezer because you want your butter to be very, very cold. Now, if you're gonna use salted butter, by all means, you just need to omit the salt. Don't use the salt. So I have a pastry cutter that I'm just gonna go in my flour, and I'm just going to break up all the butter until it's in pea-sized crumbs. Okay, so I have my butter pretty much cut into nice small pea-sized pieces. So this is what we're looking for. These little pea-sized crumbs that are in there from the butter. So now I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of icy cold buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk on hand, you can use whole milk, or you can do a buttermilk substitute simply by taking 3/4 of a cup of whole milk and add about 2 teaspoons of vinegar to it. Stir it and let it sit for a few minutes. So we're just going to stir in the buttermilk until the dough begins to pull together. You don't want to overmix this. And your dough should be slightly sticky. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll just take my mixture here, and I'm going to dump it onto my bench. It's okay if some of that flour is not mixed in because we're going to pull it together by hand anyhow. Simply just press everything together, give it a light knead. We're just pulling all the flour and that butter together. We're not making yeast bread, so we're not kneading it to the point where we're trying to develop gluten. Now, if your dough is a little bit sticky, by all means, just sprinkle a little bit of bench flour down. But it's perfect for me. So I have my dough pulled together, so I'm just going to use my hands to sort of flatten it out into sort of a roughish circle. And I'm going to let it be slightly thicker than a 1/4 inch thick. So I'm just pressing really good, make sure there's no cracks or anything. So I have a round cookie cutter here, and this is 3 1/4 inch cookie cutter. I'm just gonna go in and cut my biscuits. Now, the larger cookie cutter that you use, of course, the bigger your biscuits will be. So I should get about 4 to 6 biscuits out of this. And I just pull the dough back together, no kneading. That's another 2 there. Then that last little bit, I'm just gonna kind of let that relax for a minute. I'm gonna place this into my baking sheet side by side because it will encourage the biscuits to raise pretty high. And then this last biscuit, I'm just gonna flatten it out. Use my cutter to cut it. I'll put that one on the end. So now what I'm gonna do is I have that Pyrex glass that had that leftover sort of remnants of that buttermilk in there. I'm just use a pastry brush and go across the top very quickly. You don't want the tops to be sopping with buttermilk. This will encourage the tops of the biscuits to brown. This is going to go in the preheated 450-degree Fahrenheit oven for 10 to 12 minutes. So here are the biscuits. They're nice and golden brown. They look a little bit lighter, but let me just give you a close-up so you can see. They're nice and golden brown. The light just makes it a little bit lighter. So I have here 2 tablespoons of the butter that I melted down in the microwave. And I'm gonna add to it a tablespoon of honey. Just gonna mix the two together, and it will become smooth because the butter is hot. Your butter needs to be hot while you add that honey. So what I'm gonna do is just take my pastry brush and just brush the tops down of all the biscuits with this honey butter while the biscuits are piping hot, and they're gonna soak into the biscuits and give it a nice buttery sweetness. Now, if you don't want to use honey butter, you can use butter, or you don't have to use anything. But the honey butter will get them nice and shiny as well. So here's our biscuits, and it smells so good. I'm gonna go ahead and just break it in half so you can see it down the middle. Beautiful, buttery, light and fluffy. Give it a taste. Please don't forget to hit the thumbs up and share this video. Wow. The outside of it is nice and crusty. Beautiful, soft and buttery on the inside. Please rate this recipe. Let me know how it turns out. I promise these will be the best biscuits you ever have in your life. Thank you so much for watching, and please live and be well.